Hey viewers, I'm Rajesh Konsam. I'm a software engineer by profession and a writer by passion. When I'm not writing books or fixing bugs, I like going to the gym. I like doing Zumba. I like dance. And I have a flair for poetry as well. Today, I am being interviewed by GOGO magazine. GOGO magazine is an upcoming magazine which promotes sports stars and people from the entertainment industry and even writers like me. So what I've done today is that they have sent me a list of questions. I'll be reading them out one by one. So here we go. First of all, thank you GOGO magazine for the opportunity. And without further ado, let us start with the first question. When did your journey as a writer begin? I think most of my influence came from my mother. My mother used to write poetry when she was a schoolgirl back in those old days. I think that's when I started learning poetry little by little as a kid. And as a school going boy, I used to maintain a diary. I used to write down all this stuff into the diary. And as I grew up, I started writing bits and pieces of poetry here and there. I guess the creative part was always there in me. It was dormant all along. Finally, when I started joining college, I started writing poetry. I started taking poetry seriously. And finally, it dawned on me that I wanted to write a book. An idea germinated in my head when I was in my final year. And so I talked to a few friends and I said, I have an idea, let's develop this into a story. My friends encouraged me, and that's how I became a writer basically. My love for words, my love for wordplay made me start scribbling in the first place. And when I got the idea of a novel, I put my pen on paper and the rest is history. Which was your first book? I have only one book released so far, and that is Bittersweet. So this novel, Bittersweet, has done remarkably well and has been well received by readers and critics alike. And it was published in 2019. I first released this book I first wrote this book when I was in college. It took a little time for this book to get released. And basically, Bittersweet is about a group of young millennials in the entertainment industry. The main genre of this book is new adult. So, what is new adult? Basically, new adult is a subgenre in contemporary fiction which focuses on life immediately after college, first jobs, second relationships, loss of identity, mental illness, financial independence, compromises, all those stuffs which we deal immediately after college. So basically it's a coming of age book, and do give it a try when you have time. Let's go to the next question. What do you prefer writing in your books? I would like to add three things here. First, I'm excited by stories which combine good plot along with good character development and which has good writing style. Secondly, the authors whom I follow, they keep on advising me that there is always one kind of story hidden in every one of us. Write what you are afraid of. That might end up being your best work. There is always this deeply rooted fear in every one of us, a story which only we can tell, the kind of stories which punches you in the gut. And thirdly, I believe that there should always be an entertaining question in the book. So even if there is a main plot, I want to make sure that there is entertainment value in the book. I also like focusing on deep connection between the lead characters. It doesn't necessarily have to be a romance. I like writing about strong bonds, deep understandings, platonic love, bromance between the boys, a sisterhood between the female characters. I like writing stories about deep connections. And moving forward, I would also like to play along with genres. I like writing books with great suspense and which makes me care about the character. Next question, how do you manage publication? I think I started off right from the zero level when I started delving into publication. I was a college student when I first decided to publish my book. I had this manuscript, and what I did was I tried to contact a literary agent. Of course, I submitted my books to a few publishers, half of which didn't reply me at all. So I met this agent, Suhail Mathur from the Bookbakers Literary Agency, and he forwarded my manuscript to a couple of publishers, out of which some of them accepted me, and one publisher in general, as such, Vishwakarma Publications accepted me, and that's how I became a published author. I would also like to add one thing here. If you are a debut author, then having a literary agent to support you would come very handy, because the literary agent knows what kind of publishers would accept the kind of story which you are writing. So every year, every month, there is a demand for a certain genre or a certain type of story. Publishers look for only a certain type of genre or a story, depending on time to time. So an agent knows what to do best for your story. So in my case, I hired a literary agent, and he's also a mentor, and he helped me find the right publisher. And I would also like to add about, I would also like to mention the importance of marketing in publication. When I talk about marketing, I think I have to say it doesn't only necessarily have to be monetary. While trying to publish a book, it is important that you maintain a very good book cover design. Try to come up with an interesting book title. Try to come up with a very good book blurb, because blurbing itself is a very important work. Every time you are about to publish your book, try to make sure that you send your blurb to some experienced writers or some discerning readers. Let them know what you feel about the blurb. Try to make sure there's a good cover, a good title, a blurb, and try to make sure that the first few opening lines of your book, the first few lines of your book should be very gripping to the reader. So these are some of my experiences with publishing, and pay attention to the proofreading, the grammar, because if you don't pay attention to these important things, then there's a high chance of rejection. The fifth question, who has been your inspiration? I would like to say different people, they inspire me in different ways. For starters, Maya Angelou is one of my favorite poets. She writes stories, poems about freedom, struggle, oppression, even feminism, and even racism. So her style of writing is very simple, but still very powerful. So Maya Angelou inspires me as a poet. Aditya Roy Kapoor's fitness inspires me. And as a role model, I used to look up to Sushant Singh Rajput. It is very sad that he is not with us anymore. And as a storyteller, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, I hope I'm pronouncing his name well. His storytelling abilities and his choice of words, they inspire me to write better. Next question, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? In the next 10 years, I can imagine myself writing in a different genre. As of now, I'm focusing on new adult and mental illness. But moving forward, I want to write about cyberpunk, dystopian fiction. I don't know whether I'll be fit or not, but I will make sure that I will come up with a story in that genre. And I can imagine myself playing along with the plot, playing along with the language, and this is where I'm headed to in the next 10 years. Question number 7. Tell us something about your upcoming book. So I have started writing a second book, and this book focuses on mental illness. What type of mental illness I cannot reveal yet, and is this based on a true story? That also I cannot reveal yet. Actually, it is based on someone that I know, someone with whom I have grown up. So this book on mental illness, why I have written it. I want to write a story about characters who go through different type of struggles. And as someone who knows a person living with mental illness, it's very important that the observer pays attention to the person suffering from mental illness. The role of the observer is very important. The reason being, when we talk about mental illness, we only talk about the kind of medicine, the kind of therapy, psychotherapy, pharmacotherapy, and all those stuff. Basically, people keep on telling those persons struggling with mental illness to just open up, to speak up, take those medication and all. I think one thing which everyone is forgetting is that the role of the observer is very important. As someone who has known a mentally ill person, I want to write a story about mental illness from the perspective of an observer, and that is what I plan to write in my next book. Next question, how is life on the other side of books? When I'm not writing books, I love going to the gym. I like Zumba, and I aspire to become a professional dancer someday. I think it's going to happen after 5 or 10 years because I focus mainly on software engineering and writing. And I like traveling. I like waking up in the morning, going for jogs. I like running. And this is my life when I'm not an author or a software engineer. Any advice you would like to give to budding writers? One advice which I want to give is storytelling rules over everything. Focus on the writing style, focus on the language, focus on the structure and all that. But storytelling, good plots, good plot development, good suspense, these are the things which draws readers to your book. Write stories which are very relevant and combine that with very strong plot points. Another thing which I want to advise to budding writers is that even if there's an editor helping you out with the editing and proofreading, try to make sure that we learn the editing and proofreading ourselves. Do not rely too much on editors. They are doing their work well, but it's our onus to learn the process as much as we can. From my side, I try to Google up proofreading rules, editing rules, and all this stuff from the internet, and I try to make sure that my book is as error-free. I try to make sure that my book is error-free to the best of my ability. And when we talk about budding writers, it is also important that we do not fall into stereotypes. One thing which I learned before becoming a published author was to not use very, very big words. Sometimes I find writers vomiting as much big words into their books as much as possible. Some of these vocabularies, they are not even relevant to the storytelling. So try to be as much natural as possible and focus on, try to frame the best sentences with simple words. They will be effective in the long run. And try to write as much as you can. Write on the weekdays, write on the weekends. Try to develop two things as you go forward. Try to develop your language, your love for words, and secondly, try to develop your storytelling ability. These two will come handy when you grow as an author. How was your life in quarantine? As I said, I'm a software engineer, so I'm basically based in Chennai, but now I'm in Manipur working from home. So I think I'm currently living a really busy life here, but when I do find time on the weekends, maybe a single line, a single page, I try to write as much as possible. I know it's hard, but this is how I try to balance my work and my passion. And I would also like to say that as youngsters in our generation, it's our responsibility that we take care of ourselves and try to not go out of our house. Try to follow these lockdown procedures, stay locked down, and instead of trying to spread the virus, it's best that we take a step back and think about our relatives, our grandparents, people who are less immune to the virus, and try to make sure that we spend our time, quarantine time, focusing on our passion. Try to develop those skill sets which you have always wanted to develop, but you haven't found the time yet. So focus on your passion. Try to add more stuff into your resume. So improve your resume. Try to increase your value by several notches. Try to find a new passion, improve your passion, improve your skill set, and when quarantine is over, you will definitely be ready to face the world again. Thank you so much, GOGO magazine, for the opportunity, and for those who are watching this video, please do like, subscribe, and share their videos. You'll be surprised with the kind of content which they have. They invite athletes, celebrities, TED Talk speakers, writers from all over the world. So please do like, subscribe, and share. And thank you so much for having me here.